Where can you find 6,000 local businesses with just one click? EverythingMidmo.com.
Hello and welcome to the Columbia Daily Tribune's Behind the Stripes webcast. Reversal of seating arrangements this week.
Curveball for you.
Yep, hope you adjust. We will talk about Missouri's 27-20 victory over Bowling Green. Dave, a little closer than expected. I believe by Saturday, the point spread, the line was up to Missouri by 20 points. Certainly didn't look like that was going to come to pass. By the middle of the third quarter, they're losing by 14 points. They do manage to pull it off, 27-20. Just maybe for you, were there concerns exposed in that game that you think could be long-term problems for Missouri, or just kind of one of those nights like a lot of teams had last week?
Well, if they wouldn't have fixed the problems there in the second half, I think those concerns would have been a lot more glaring. But to their credit, they did fix a lot of those things. You know, I think what we saw from Missouri, I think there were a lot of blemishes, but not huge warts. You know, I think there were a lot of little problems on the offensive line. It seemed like everybody up front had at least one breakdown, whether it was a penalty, guy got a holding. Webbles had the personal foul, and he also got a holding later. Tim Barnes even had a few bad snaps. You know, things were just not clicking, and they were set up in a lot of second long and third long situations. And then Blaine Gabbert didn't play very well in that first half either. He seemed to lose some of that composure that's been so impressive so far. He got rattled a few times by the pass rush. Didn't make the best decisions throwing the ball downfield the few times that he did. And the one time he just held on to the ball way too long and got sacked and fumbled, and Bowling Green got 3 points out of it. So, but they learned their lesson because they were able to come out of it with a win and fix a lot of those problems in the first half.
Yeah, I guess maybe the one concern I had with Gabbert was it seemed like he got a little bit of pressure on him early, but then as the first half wore on, he wasn't getting a lot of pressure and was still kind of backpedaling and leaving the pocket maybe even before he needed to. So I think that's something that maybe isn't just a one-night thing. That's something he's going to have to work on. The other thing is Missouri just really has no return game either on kicks or on punts. Right. Basically, where they catch the ball is where they're starting. I think that's a situation where those are yards during a game, especially after you've been watching the last 2 years of Jeremy Macklin that you sort of took for granted. But that's kind of a field position thing, as I think they get in more competitive games could be problematic for them. Yeah,
and Gary Pinkel addressed that Monday and said it's kind of balancing out because the punt returners for the opponents aren't getting any returns either because Jake Harry's done a good job. That rollout rugby-style kick, and Gary said that he's noticed a lot of teams are having trouble making returns on that because of just it's pretty unique, and it really sets up a chance for the blockers don't have a lot of time back there to really get anything going. So that's something that I think they're just kind of working on right now. They just need a guy back there that can catch the ball. Geddes can do that as long as he's fair catching it. Mm-hmm. He tried the one return the other day and fumbled, and they got some points out of it. So that's something to watch here as the season goes on.
The other thing is Blaine Gabbert really, the first week against Illinois, really had no adversity. I mean, he from the get-go was almost had kind of a charmed game, but if you play quarterback for very long, and 2 games isn't very long, but I mean, you're going to have some adversity. He did. The one good thing I liked about him was instead of just throwing up his hand saying, well, not my night, the second half he came back, he stuck with it. And I wouldn't say it wasn't like he was a one-man show out there because the running game was really good. But at least he stuck with it and made some big plays in the second half.
Yeah, and just as important, Missouri stuck with its running game. They didn't give up on the run. They saw a lot of 3-man defensive fronts with Bowling Green dropping 8 guys back into coverage, and that just begs you to run the ball. And to Dave Yost's credit, he did. He stuck with the run with both Kendall Lawrence and especially Derek Washington. And then, that paid off with some of those deep throws that Gabbert was able to complete. He got the secondary moving up a little bit when he had that kind of fake option run that he threw it to West Kemp for the touchdown. So it was all clicking and working in the second half, and I think they're also getting rid of the ball faster too, so he didn't even have to worry about a pass rush. So, when Missouri's offense is working, when you're getting the run to set up the pass is kind of ideal, it looks pretty good, and it looked very good against Illinois. So it just took them a while to get going. I think that's to be expected from a team with a lot of young key players.
Missouri drops out of the AP poll. They were 25 a week ago. They're out of that one. They do move into it in the coaches poll. You're an AP poll voter. What's your feeling just generally about you've got a team in the rankings. They win unimpressively Do you drop them? Do you think it's a fair thing to do? Because after the game, everyone said a win is a win.
Right, that's right. I think early in the year it's okay when you don't have a really big body of work to deal with, and I think you have to make room for teams that kind of came out of nowhere and looked impressive. You know, last week the dilemma when I went to vote was only 2 teams lost that I had ranked pretty high that I still wanted to keep in the top 25. That was Oklahoma State and Ohio State. I dropped them down in the 20s, but I wanted to still keep them ranked. And then one team, Houston, which beat Oklahoma State, was unranked. I wanted to get in there. Well, you had to get rid of somebody. Missouri was kind of one of the candidates that I had that might have been on the chopping block. I had them at 23, and didn't win that impressively, and they were at home. Didn't really want to punish a team that won on the road, like Oregon State, which I have ranked. Not a lot of people do. They won at UNLV, last-second kick. Hard to really punish a team for winning a non-conference game on the road. So I ended up taking Georgia out. I had them at 25 anyway. It was kind of just a toss-up there. And, their loss to Oklahoma State 2 weeks ago looks a little worse when Oklahoma State loses at home. So you got to kind of mess around with those teams at the bottom there this early in the year when you don't have a big body of work to deal with. So generally I don't like dropping teams that win, but it's all relative. You got to take into consideration what everybody else did that week.
Especially when you consider, I think it's pretty fluid this early in the year, and I think that's probably the way to go. I think, especially when you look at the BCS conference teams, probably at least 40 or 50% are still 2-0 because nobody plays good non-conference schedules now. So I wouldn't get too worked up about it, whether a team's in the top 25 or not. The only good thing about it is, especially if you're playing a team like they're going to play this week, Furman, you might not even get mentioned on highlights or even get your score in the crawl if you're not in the top 25, whereas if you are, you will automatically. So just from a exposure standpoint, it's helpful, but obviously long-term, as far as what they can accomplish this season, it's meaningless.
Right.
All right, well, that wraps up the first segment of the Behind the Stripes webcast for this week, and tune in tomorrow when we will attempt to talk a little bit about Furman and possibly play a game show.
Sounds good.